What I'm trying to say in the final analysis, once we take control of ourselves, we have to stop being imitators and be innovators. And realize we've got a continent 12 million square miles. Wherever our bodies are on the face of this earth, our cultural and political heartbeat is in Africa. Whether you ever go to Africa or not, that is your home, that is the home of your spirit, and that is the heart and meaning and definition of your commitment. And none of us, any place in the world, will be free until that continent is free.
The Masi Warrior Clan was created because myself and others like Brother Nahisi saw a need for a young African group to analyze information concerning the African phenomena with no bias, with rigor, and with scholarship. We created the Masi Warrior Clan for the purpose of being an expert research team, of being a team that produced products, a team that was capable of producing products for African people globally to dispel myths, rumors, and provide them with accurate scholarship.
line it up. And he was like, I don't debate y'all. Y'all too disrespectful. Aboriginal Power won't even debate Sean because he's too disrespectful.
He is though. No, he really is though. I can't really like you, bro. You cool. Not a coincidence. I actually chop it over cuz. But niggas that come off too heated and disrespectful, like I said, I'll debate you, bro. But we gotta get in the ring first. If you're gonna be disrespectful like that, at least disrespect me in the ring, bro. Let's start now, bro. Can you disrespect me in a cage, bro? Like, I'd rather just do that. Then we go straight from the cage. I mean, put your ice on the way to the motherfucking computer, and we'll debate directly after that, nigga. Shit.
That's why I don't even be fucking with the nigga and shit. You feel me? Like, it's like, wait, bro, talk like that, man. We gotta get face to face with you to talk to you like that, my nigga.
Yeah, Peanut. You good? Go ahead, I got my brother already. Peanut, what's the word, my brother? What's the champ?
Yeah, I appreciate you, man, but Lucky, let me say this, man. First of all, I'm an older brother. I'm young in spirit as I stay in shape. But I'm older. I deserve respect. Don't lie on me. You're not going to get nowhere lying, because that's what's going to make you fall face first. Second of all, I'm well known in the Pan-African community. I'm not nobody new. You're younger than me. You don't know this. I didn't put in work and expose Rob Bourne, Sutek, any of them people over there. They know it deep down inside. And I'm gonna be long-winded. I'm a Moorish American. I already had back and forth with them dude. They erased videos. I'm not running from anybody. Don't ever say that stupid shit again. Third, and last but not least, I'm not losing no debate to no Pan-African. So don't ever say that shit again, famo. And that's it. Appreciate y'all, man.
So you heard that. If Sean P want to debate, don't debate the champ over here, right?
Sutek wanted so this like it's a pecking order. It's a pecking. So Sean want you and Sutek want him. You say PMF ain't on his
no problem. There's no problem, man. Let's set up the Sutek debate, man. I don't like him anyway.
Okay, so I love that son, brother. I love that warrior mentality.
Let's have fun. I love you. Tell Sutek. Tell me. There ain't nothing. My champ always in the chat. Album pop in. We'll set a topic. We'll set a date. We'll make it pay-per-view. We'll chop it up behind the scenes. I get their contact. We make it work. So, right here. He ain't ducking no phase, bro.
But that's what I'm saying. He do this over here on y'all channel, but then when we get in other
hey, alright, I will block your ass, nigga, because I'm well known for disrupting them chats over there, nigga. Stop fucking lying, nigga. You a goofy, nigga. I would never let a lame ass nigga lie on me in my face, clown.
You gonna block me and I don't be
it ain't no time I ain't ever been on the Pan-African channel and made my impact. Stop lying. I'm a real man, bro. Stop lying, fam. Don't do PNF like that.
PNF, they trying to trigger you, brother.
Word the fuck up.
But listen, he did that to me, talking about, oh, word on the street, I'm ducking from John P. I've never even had but one conversation with this little disrespectful motherfucker.
Oh, okay, yeah, he a little right. He like,
so he like,
How the fuck y'all find an African in my fucking family,
He
but y'all
died
ain't
by
find
his
y'all?
own genealogy.
Shut the fuck up. That don't make sense, for one. Listen, y'all don't know what y'all
I
did.
don't feel like you standing on business.
And y'all lied on me, because y'all don't even know if that's me. And if y'all can trace that shit back to it's me, it's only 2 people in YouTube that got my information. Yeah, he died by his own genealogy. You ain't an Indian, you ain't got a lot of meat. Half of this track, best believe you lose a lot of sleep. Probably because you made it up to us honestly. You ain't a Cherokee, you ain't a Chickasaw, you ain't a Blackfoot, nigga get lost. You just a fool with low comprehension. So I gotta come through with the henchmen. NAC, Sean P, Shy Son, Lucky. Don't forget Jay, got no time to play. Caught an apple slipping with his genealogy. Now he's a con and I ain't talking about a singer. I'm coming for the top apple leader. He ain't a teacher, he's a preacher. He can't keep up, so we leave him. Yeah, he died by his own genealogy. You ain't an Indian, you ain't got a lot of meat. Half of the track, best believe you lose a lot of sleep. Probably because you made it up to us possibly. You ain't a Cherokee, you ain't a Chickasaw, you ain't a Blackfoot. Nigga, get lost. You just a fool with low comprehension. So I gotta come through with the henchmen. NAC, Sean P, Shy Son, Lucky. Don't forget Jay, got no time to play. Caught an apple slipping off his genealogy. Now he's a con. OTK, TKO. Now he's a con. OTK, you died. TKO genealogy.
Peace to everybody out there in the chat. It's your boy Sean P in the place to be, man. Like the show, share the show, tell a friend, we live. We're going to get into this conversation about skin tone, skin complexion. I did leave some sources in the description for a lot of people that want to follow the conversation a little bit more in depth. I just don't want to bore people to death, so I do have some points I do want to hit on. We're also going to look at the work of Dr. Dr. Jablonski, in an effort to understand her research and what went into that and what provides us a sound methodology to be able to answer certain questions. Also, we may look at different skin or genes that deal with complexion. Yeah, it's going to be real scientific. Now, what is the purpose of this? The purpose of this isn't just because it's to have a conversation. The purpose of this is to deal with the notions of people in said community making claims of people being indigenous or aboriginal to a place or places that they're not indigenous or aboriginal to, according to how they want to use the definition and reframe that work. And it's sad that we have come to this point. Also, this may lead into the other conversation that we ended with last week regarding blackness, right? And you're going to see the evolution of this scientific endeavor and how it separates itself from social statuses and pseudo sophisticated conversations. So we would have to look at that from the eyes of science and just really evaluate that whole thing about blackness, because that is a problem, especially in our community. Now, we know how things are defined, and a lot of us try to redefine certain things, but I don't think that we do the proper evaluation and understanding and research of what we are trying to evaluate here and redefine. So we're going to deal with what we're going to deal with today. And I'm going to get at a couple of people along the way. So I did tag a couple of gentlemen. One in particular loves to play in the crayon box. His name is V-Note, and he's out of Oklahoma. He say he got family that's from South Carolina and Florida. They made their way up into Oklahoma, and his people been there. And he's saying that these people are these people. And he's hung over in many conversations. He ain't the only one, and that's why I'm start with him. But we've heard him on a multitude of shows talk about this blackness thing, this skin tone. What color was the people that they saw, right? He's so caught up in color. So we're gonna open the crayon box and we're gonna see what is this color that he is referring to. So I do want to say peace to Ramon, Midwest was good, Teddy was good, Eugene, peace to you. Life and Life, what's going on? Ava was good, Timmy Turner was good. Our ballad, I see you, sis. Those of you who will catch the replay and may straggle up in here a little bit later. I know this is impromptu for a lot of people because you don't plan on me being live. I guess I don't know. But yeah, Teddy, he's a con. And we ain't talking about the singer. Pure Black is back. He is no longer on his alter ego YouTube page. He is back in the building. Yeah. So it's a sad day in college football. You know what I'm saying? Colorado riding it high, finally lost. They finally lost another game. Had they won this game, played better defensively, they win the game, but they didn't play better defensively, therefore they paid for it. And they took an L. So now they gotta win next week, and then all these other chips gotta fall in order for them to even advance to the Big 12. What's up, Thurman? And we'll see where it goes from there. So I'm just really trying to buy some time before I get into the bill because I know a lot of people like to straggle in the middle of things. I do also have something from a geneticist that I would also prop up on the screen, but you know I ain't gonna hold y'all up too long. I am looking for somebody to join this conversation, real talk, and I'm not just talking about just joining it just to join it. I'm talking about joining it with your evidence of why you think the way you think and feel the way you feel. And if you've been here, where's your best evidence? What's going on, Zane? I asked that on a story today. I asked someone, where is your best evidence? And I have yet to get an answer from anyone who feels the need that they are indigenous or aboriginal to this land. Where's your best evidence? We don't have to argue because there's nothing to argue about. If you have your best evidence, it will be evaluated, it will be critiqued, and it will be scrutinized, and it will be substantiated if your best evidence is your best evidence, respectfully. But if you feel like your people been here before the Paleo Indians, which is the ancestors to the Native Americans and Mexicans, do me a favor, show me your best evidence. Because you have to have that evidence. There's something that is significantly innate in you and your history, orally, in the whole nine. I need your best evidence. Lay it on me. I'm an open book. So, without further ado, let's get into a little bit of this. Let me see if y'all can see this on the screen. Y'all should be able to see this on the screen. Good. I'm going to zoom in just a little. Nope. How they look? How they look on the screen? Can y'all see that? All right, cool. I mean, I can make it full screen if need be. Sean, can you break down the origins of the L haplogroup? We already did a video on it. Ava. The origins of the L haplogroup, which can be found in Africa, are distinctively related to the first over in Africa on the continent. And we walk you through that because L3 is responsible for populating the rest of the world, the L3 haplogroup. So I would suggest you kind of go back into into the archives and the live videos and kind of deal with it from there. Zane is saying larger, so y'all can't see it. I mean, I know my eyes bad. No, there's no origin of L here before slavery. Absolutely not. It's not. So I understand what you're asking now that you said that, but no, there's no origin of L. There's a variation of other haplogroups that became distinctively unique to the Americas once they began to populate it and isolate. And it took thousands of years for that to happen. Hold on one second, y'all. Okay. Ava said I was smoking over the last night. That's why. Oh, well, you was on Smoke Channel. Good luck to that. You said the screen was buffering. I don't see that. Hold on one second. I hate when people do this, man. You wasting my time, bro. You know how you got people that'll waste your time, they ask you all these questions, and then it's nothing. Like this dude is wasting my time right now. All right. So our skin mediates the most important transactions of our lives. Skin is key to our biology, our sensory experiences, our information gathering, and our relationship with others. Although the many roles it plays are rarely appreciated, it is one of the most remarkable and highly versatile parts of the human body. I told y'all that we're going to be looking at Jablonski's work, and that's what I'm reading from right now. It's called Skin, A Natural History. Simply put, skin is flexible, continuous, covering the body, safeguards our internal organs from external environment. It protects us from attack by physical, chemical, and microbial agents and shields us from most of the harmful rays of the sun. While it works hard to regulate our body temperature, far from being an impervious barrier, however, the skin is selectively permeable sheet. It is constantly at work as a watchful sentinel, letting some things and others out. The skin is also home to hundreds of millions of microorganisms, which feed on the scales and secretions. But our skin is more than a defense shield, a gatekeeper, and a personal zoo. The pores and nerves of ending of our skin unite us with our surrounding. Skin is the interface through which we touch one another and sense much of our environment. Through our skin, we feel the smooth cold of melting ice, the warm and gentle breeze of the summer evening, the annoying pinch of an insect bite, the humbling pain of a scraped knee, the soft and calm feel of a mother's hand, and the thrill of a lover's touch. Throughout the approximately 6 million year journey of the human lineage, our skin has traveled and evolved with us through myriad changes of climate and lifestyle. In addition to providing a boundary layer between the body and the environment, the skin has taken on the new roles of social canvas and embodied metaphor in our recent evolutionary past. Our skin reflects our age, our ancestry, our state of health, our cultural identity, and much of what we want the world to know about us. People in all known cultures modify their skin in some way, often using deliberate markings and manipulations to convey highly personal information about themselves to others. No other organ in the body can boast so many diverse and important roles. Few people, in fact, think of our skin as an organ of the human body. The word skin doesn't bring to mind the same meaty image as the term liver or pancreas, nor does it elicit the same quasi response. Yet the skin is, by most measures, the body's largest organ, and it's certainly the most visible. Its size is about 2 square meters, approximately 20 square feet, and it averages weights for 4 kilograms, about 9 pounds. Unlike a heart or a kidney, skin never fails because it is constantly being renewed. Human skin is unique in 3 aspects. First, it is naked and sweaty, except for the scalp, the groin, the armpits, and the male chin. Our bodies are effectively hairless. Because this phenomenon sets us apart so obviously from other mammals, it has engaged the attention of many scientists and armchair theorists who have produced a welter of unconventional explanations. Among the many theories put forward to account for our hairlessness, the most cognate proposes that we have lost most of our body hair in order to keep cool in hot environments and during exercise. Humans sweat to a greater degree than other mammals, and hairless skin allows sweat to evaporate quickly, more efficiently, cooling the body. The second distinctive attribute of human skin is that it comes naturally in a wide range of colors, from the darkest brown, nearly black, to the palest ivory, nearly white. This exquisite sepia rainbow shades from darkest near the equator to lightest near the poles. I'm going to say that one more time. The second distinctive attribute of human skin is that it comes naturally in a wide range of colors, from the darkest brown, nearly black, to the palest ivory, nearly white. This exquisite sepia rainbow shades from the darkest near the equator to the lightest near the poles. Ladies and gentlemen, we have for many years been stressing the fact that some of the darkest skin complected people are near the equator and the lightest are away or closer to the poles. That's why you see on a skin map that many people try to dismiss the variations exist. This range forms a natural clean or gradient that is related primarily to the intensity of the ultraviolet radiation that falls on the different latitudes of the Earth's surface. What's up, Cheetah? It's been a minute. Skin color is one of the ways in which evolution has fine-tuned our bodies to the environment, uniting humanity through a palette of adaptation. Unfortunately, skin color has also divided humanity because of its damaging association with concepts of race. The spurious connections between skin color and social position have riven peoples and countries for centuries. The third major distinction of human skin is that it is a surface for decoration. Our skin is not just a passive covering that portrays our age of physiological state. It is potentially ever-changing personal tapestry that tells the world about who we are or who we want to be. And unlike the involuntary advertising afforded by our own skin color, the decorations we place on our skin are deliberate and willful forms of advertisement. Skin becomes a social placard, serving as both our advertising billboard and the packaging. No other creature exerts such extensive control over what its skin looks like. Humans expose it, cover it, paint it, tattoo it, scar it, pierce it, tell it a unique story about ourselves to those around us. In a world of increasingly globalized fashion, adornment of the skin is one of the latest frontiers of individuality and personal adventure. More than any other part of the body, our skin imbues us with humanity and individuality, and the forms of the centerpiece of the vocabulary of personhood. The word skin often represents the whole body or the wholeness of the self, and its use in figures of speech can convey intensively personal feelings or strong sentiments about identity and appearance. Think about the times you use the word skin in a figure of speech in normal conversations and how frequently you see it used in writing. It can express surprise or fear. I nearly jumped out of my skin. After a close call, you might exclaim the relief. I just managed to save my skin. Similar, the Bible quotes Job as saying, I am escaped with the skin of my teeth. We use the metaphor of skin to describe a person's sensitivity. It won't bother her. She has a thick skin. Or it's no wonder she took offense at your remark. She has an incredible thin skin. We can dismiss others or complain about them in the words. So what if he doesn't want to go? It's no skin off my nose. Or he really gets under my skin. An extremely thin person is nothing but skin and bones, while an attractive individual is cautioned that beauty is only skin deep. T.S. Eliot's poem, Whispers of Immortality, opens with this image. Webster was much possessed by death and saw the skull beneath the skin. These images and patterns of use maintain a currency and immediacy because we so closely associate our skin with the sense of essence of our being. They induce empathy because of the ambiguous association of the skin with vulnerable self. As a teacher of human anatomy for many years, I was also fascinated by the reaction of students that began to dissect the human body at the beginning of the academic year. Most students approach the task with hesitation, some with great fear. For many, this reluctance was born on the simple dread of the touching a dead person, something that many of them had never done before. Much of their reserve, however, derived from a sense of trepidation about trespassing a boundary they had not considered crossing. The intact skin of the cadaver, especially the skin of the face, was associated with a real person who had lived in a real life and laughter and tears, a person like them who had felt joy and sorrow just a few months of years earlier. But as they carefully began to remove the skin, their hesitation and reserve slowly disappeared. Although the body was no debtor without skin, they partially flayed cadaver lacked the covering that the students associated with dynamic personhood. Excuse me. The veil of personality and individuality had been removed, revealing the muscles, nerves, and sinews of the human species. A modern ecorche, an anatomical representation of the body with the skin removed, shows us that the body without skin is indeed human, but it has been stripped of its identity and personality. Lacking its inherent color, scars, decorations, and any trace of emotion, the cadaver is a human, but not a person. It beckons us to ponder the meaning of skin as a barrier, and indeed to consider our definitions of an individual. As the cadaver proffers its skin, it arrests to the view of the question, who am I without my skin? Without its skin, however, it is also portrays a universal humanity that invites us to learn more about our shared history underneath the skin. Only after my students had removed most of the skin from the body could they begin to enjoy the wonders of anatomy without reservation and to explore the body's complex and mysterious interior. They no longer felt that they were violating a person's intimate space. Despite the importance of skin in human biology and its interactions between people through the ages, most of its rich and interesting history has not been told. That's what we're about to learn from this actual book. Everything that we need to know about the damn skin. So before we move forward, I want to go back to this point. Yes, I read it twice for a reason, but it was here in this second distinctive, and I'm going to highlight it. Let me see if I can highlight it. Boom. Highlight it on your screen. The second distinctive attribute of the human skin is that it comes naturally in a wide range of colors, from the darkest brown, nearly black, to the palest ivory, nearly white. Underneath that skin, ladies and gentlemen, the reason that you coexist with people of different shades of hue is because underneath that skin, everything is similar. It's the same. So why am I saying that? If people claim to have been in the Americas before coming off a boat, before the Bering Strait, before going down the Kelp Highway, before the low sea levels that allowed little small boats to venture into the Pacific, and before that ice melted, they were saying that there was people before all of that. Who are you and where did you come from? Because we know where everyone else does come from and how they came to be in the Americas as it began to populate and spread throughout the years leading up into where we are today. Because you can't be human. We shouldn't be able to open up your skin and it looks like us, because we know where everybody else came from. But you are uniquely different, and you're claiming to be this people of a darkest brown, nearly black, before this Paleo Indian comes into the Americas. My point in saying that is because I'm telling y'all that these people in this community have been living in a crayon box for so long, they don't understand how stupid they sound when you put them up against the evidence. Someone in the chat said if they'd been here, they dang sure wouldn't have been black. Ava did. That's a fact. What up, Juju? On the beat. So, I want to skip ahead out of the introduction because there were some key things that were mentioned in that introduction that would allow us to move forward. And I want to get into the crevice of, do I want to start here? Yeah. I want to, let me go back. So let's talk about the skin-laid bear. Peep this. It isn't good to take for granted something as important as skin. A moment in image, the following scene. You're standing in the moist, shadowy heat of an orchard in the late afternoon on a sunny day. You're able to stand outside in comfort without overheating, thanks to your skin's ability to regulate your body temperature and shield you from ultraviolet radiation. Only a few beads of sweat on your brow and upper lip betray the fact that your skin is working to keep you cool. As you flick away the fly that tried to settle on your face, you don't give a thought to the way your skin is protecting you from the microorganisms on the insect's feet and snout. You have your eye on a peach dangling from a branch above your head, and you want to pick it and eat it. As you reach up toward that lovely peach, you're distracted again by the fly, and the back of your hand scrapes against the snag of an old branch. Thanks to your skin's fairly tough surface, the scrape isn't a problem. A welt starts to rise in a few minutes, but your skin is unbroken because its outermost layer is quite scuff resistant. You reach up again, and the elastic properties of the skin on your arm and trunk allow you to stretch effortlessly until on your tiptoe you touch the peach. As you grasp the fruit, you squeeze it ever so slightly and register its subtle softness through the exquisitely sensitive pressure sensors in the skin of your fingertips. It is ripe. As you pull the peach off the tree, temperature sensors in the skin of your hand let you appreciate its slight warmth. As you lower your arm, the stretched skin of your arm and trunk returns instantly to its resisting shape. You bring the peach to your nose and smell it, and then brush it gently against your cheek, enjoying the feeling of the soft fuzz against your face. Your sensitive facial skin, with its high density of delicate touch sensors, is transmitting information about the texture of the peach to your brain. Just as you prepare to bite into the fruit, an annoying tickle at your ankle disturbs your reverie, and you realize that a mosquito has just bitten you while you were so pleasantly distracted with the smell and the feel of the peach. Your skin and its wide-ranging capabilities made various parts of this scenario possible. To understand how this is so, an introductory to a human skin exploring its structure and its essential functions is in order. One of the most striking features of human skin is that it is basically naked. In this way, it differs from the skin of most of our warm-blooded relatives. The ancestors of birds, mammals evolved fine, thread-like appendages of their skin, feathers, and hairs, respectively, which regulate heat interchange and also help to prevent water loss and mechanical trauma. Lacking such protection, human skin had to undergo numerous structural changes to give it strength, resilience, and sensitivity. Our skin is not perfect, but it does a remarkable good job. Our fabric doesn't wear out, our seams don't burst, we don't spontaneously sprout leaks, and we don't expand like water balloons when we sit in the bathtub. Some of the most important properties of skin are related to sunlight. In humans, the skin and the pigments it contains selectively filter the ultraviolet radiation emanating from the sun. Our skin has the amazing ability not only to serve as a protective shield against the damaging effects of sunlight, but also to utilize some of the same sunlight to the body's advantage by beginning the process of producing vitamin D right there in the skin. Thus, our skin, like so many other parts of our body, is compromised, hammered out at the negotiating table of evolution. Its complex properties reflect a balance brought about through natural selection between conflicting needs, in this case, protection against harmful solar radiation and production of essential vitamins. Skin is made up of layers with different physical and chemical properties. This laminar or layered construction gives the skin its resistance to abrasions and punctures and allows it to avoid absorbing most substances. The skin's two major layers, the epidermis and the dermis, differ remarkably in their composition and function. The skin also includes special types of cells that insinuate themselves into the skin during earlier embryonic development. These aptly named immigrant cells played varied and important roles in protecting the skin, as well, you'll see later in the chapter. The skin's outermost layer, the epidermis, shields us from environmental oxidants and heat, while it also resists water, abrasion, stains, microbes, and many chemicals. A list of qualities that make the epidermis sound more like a revolutionary new type of carpeting than a natural material. It is all the more astonishing then that these useful attributes are found in a self-renewing layer only about 1 millimeter thick, which continuously performs all its functions despite being in a constant state of turnover, with its outermost cells being shed as they are replaced from below. The epidermis is composed mostly of specialized type of epithelium consisting of multi-layer of strata and flattened cells. Epithelium is a covering of many externally and internally surface of the body. Because these cells contain high concentrations of protected protein, keratin, and epithelium, known as scientifically as stratified keratinizum epithelium. The very surface of epidermis is the most remarkable layer. The stratum cornum. The stratum cornum is sometimes called the epidermal horny layer. That horny layer, y'all. Because it consists of relatively thin sheet of dead flattened cells with a smooth, fairly tough, and water-resistant surface. The only thing that interrupts its surface are hair follicles, the pores of sweat, as you can see in this example right here. We're going to come back to that. Sweat glands and parts of the so-called immigrant cells that help to form the complex mosaic of the skin. The skin effectiveness as a barrier against environmental insults of all kinds, effectively oxidative stress such as ultraviolet radiation, what you know is UV rays, ozone, air pollutions, pathological microorganisms, chemical oxidants, and topically applied drugs depends primarily on the integrated of the stratum cornum. There go the hell right there. So epidermis is the outer layer, is what we see right now. The dermis, we don't see that. Let somebody cut your behind up open, and you got something so deeply that can break the skin that you can see down through there. But this is what you're looking at. Like I said, the hair follicle. Think about those of us who pull hair, men who grab them little tweezers and be picking their hair on their chin or something, or their cheek or their face or something like that. Even women. Think about that. And you get all the way down to that. Yeah. Anyway, one of the ways the skin defends itself against some environmental stressors is to become thicker. When the skin is repeatedly exposed to UVR, for instance, cell division increases in the deepest layer of the epidermis. The stratum basal, which is the source of the epidermal cells as a result of the stratum corneum thickness, if the stress, whether external or internal, is extreme, too much UVR, too much heat, a corrosive chemical such as acid, some diseases or genetic problems, the stratum corneum can cease to be an effective barrier. This can have disastrous results if a large area of the skin is affected. Keratinocytes, the main types of cells found in the epidermis, are made of proteins called keratins. They're responsible for the strength resistance, the stretchability of the skin surface. Within keratinocytes, filaments or keratins are embedded in a gelatin-like matrix, and layer after layer of these cells build up from below to make up epidermis. Between the cells, a substance rich in proteins and lipids fills the narrow space. I told you, your skin, that roadmap of your skin is high level. So if someone is basing their arguments on skin, they got to go beyond just because of a shade. The elasticity and the imperviousness of the epidermis, especially the stratum corneum, results from its brick and mortar construction. That is, the tight and strong physical interconnections between the adjacent cells and the protein and lipid material between them. In people with dark skin, The keratin sites also contain flecks of pigment called pigment melanin, or what you know as melanin dust, which provide another layer of protection against UVR. Here we go. Scientists have long thought that human epidermis is unique because it does such a good job of protecting us, even though we are effectively hairless. But the genetic basis for the uniqueness had not been appreciated until the past few years. One of the ways in which genetic makeup of humans varies from that of our closest relatives, chimpanzees, in the genes determining the structure of epidermis. The recent sequencing of the chimpanzee genome has revealed that one of the few areas of genomes where humans and chimps differ significantly is in a cluster of functionally related genes that regulate the differentiation of the epidermis and contribute to the coating, the proteins that make up the keratin-rich layer of skin. At least as far as primate skin goes, our epidermis is tough stuff. The immigrant cells in the epidermis are a diverse lot that work with the other cells in the skin. They migrate into the skin from other parts of the body during early development to provide special physical and chemical protection against potent environmental agents such as UVR, disease-causing microorganisms, and dangerously high physical pressures. Although they are developmental interlopes, the immigrant cells don't in any way weaken the physical fabric of the skin. There are three main types of immigrant cells in the epidermis. Melanocytes produce the skin's primary pigment and the natural sunscreen melanin. These cells migrate to the skin from a position flanking the spine during early embryonic development. Once they arrive, they set up the shop near the interface of the dermis and the epidermis in order to manufacture melanin. Some people produce a lot of melanin in their melanocytes, whereas others produce only a little depending on the amount of the UVR present in the environment of their ancestors. Skin color, which is determined by the activity of the melanocytes and their manufacture of melanin, has evolved under the close watch of natural selection. Two other types of immigrant cells are also important. Langerhans cells are specialized cells of the immune system that respond to foreign substances coming into contact with the skin. They constitute the body's first line of defense against bacteria and viruses that land on the skin. Merkel cells are associated with the ends of sensory nerves in the skin, where they appear to assist in the transfer of mechanical signals from the skin to sensory nerves and then on the brain. Merkel cells, which are common on the smooth skin of fingertips and lips, contribute to our finely discriminating sense of touch. They are also of great importance to our furred and feathered relatives. In mammals and birds, Merkel cells occur in the collars of cells that support hair and feather follicles, including those surrounding the sensitivity whiskers of dogs, cats, and rats. Probing beneath the epidermis, we reach the second of the skin's two primary layers, a thicker layer of the dense connectivity tissue called the dermis. This is the layer that really imparts toughness to the skin. It is a pliable, elastic, and has considerable tensile strength. The most of the thickness of our own skin and most of the thickness of a hide of animal comes from the dermis. Its thickness, in addition to its chemical and physical properties, helps to insulate the body and makes the skin resistant to mechanical injury. Leather is composed mainly of tough animal dermis that has been tanned so that it will be more pliable. The dermis is a composite tissue that gets its strength and toughness from a combination of collagen fibers and elastin fibers. These fibers are maintained in a gel composed of salts, water, and large protein molecules called glycosaminoglycans. It's the best I'm gonna get with it. The primary cells of the dermis and collagen-rich cells are known as fibroblasts. Collagen, which constitutes 77% of the dry weight of skin, accounts for most of the tensible strength of the skin and for some of its ability to scatter visible light. Collagen acts just the way it looks, like a tough little rope of protein holding the dermis together. Here's a picture right here. Interwoven with the collagen is a network of abundant elastin fibers that restore the skin to its normal configuration after stretching. The production of collagen and elastin fibers slows down as we get older, and it is adversely affected by the UVR from its excessive sun exposure. Many products on the beauty market today claim to stimulate production of these materials to keep skin looking young, but there is only so much that creams, treatments, and cosmeticals can do to change the appearance of composition of skin, especially when people have caused irreparable damage through their incautious behavior of the sun. Many of the processes in the skin control the production of collagen and elastin are governed by internal mechanisms or cellular aging that are affected or are only weakly affected by what we apply to the skin surface. Amid the complex tangle of connective tissue fibers in the dermis, we find a branching network of blood vessels, extensive network of nerves, numerous sweat glands, and an assortment of hair follicles, hair rising, erector polymuscles, and oil-producing glands. The blood vessels are critically because they supply the appetites of the sweat glands, the hair follicles, and the rapidly multiplying cells in the lowest layer of the epidermis. The density of blood varies over the body's surface. They are especially concentrated on the head. For instance, where temperature regulation is particularly important to protect the brain, where the hair follicles of the scalp require good nutrition from a rich blood supply so that hair can grow. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. She gets into breaking that whole thing down about the blood flow and more. I am telling you right now, when you really start to study skin, see, most of us was already doing that during the pandemic because we were learning how viruses work and how they attack the body and how they enter through your skin into the cells and get on down to where they need to get on down. At the same time, we were understanding vaccines and how vaccines were administered and how they puncture the skin, and if these vaccines actually do get into your how far they go in to get into the nucleus, etc. We understood those things. Look at Zane in the chat using Chat GPT to help say the word. And we got Melanated Goddess in the building, ladies, all can be. What up, Public Enemy? What's going on? Yeah, man, happy birthday, man. So I wanna kind of get into this whole thing about skin, but I'm gonna come back to this source. I wanna open it up a little bit more. Let me stop sharing and reshare. Because it's a lot y'all don't really just kind of get into. So before I do anything, let's hear from my dear great brother, the one and only Rick Kittles. I don't miss his name up, man. You know I'm just playing. But that's Rick Kittles in the building. But before I do this, I need to put something on the screen so that I don't take no strikes. Hold on, let me find something to put over Rick Kittles real quick. You know how them people be acting? Kofi, what you got up here? Let me put something up here what Kofi got going on, man. Now let me do this. Boom. A little fun. Just a little fun, y'all. Just a little fun. That's why I put it right there. Just a little something to laugh at right there. Y'all remember that was back when I was going to war with the bros. All right. So let me see if y'all can hear this. Let me know if y'all can hear this. Put a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear it. I ain't played it yet, so let me try to put a 1 in it.
Human brains are gray. Human blood is red. Our bones are off-white. Doesn't matter where you're born or to whom. But human skin is different. Some of us have rich, dark brown skin. Some of us have pinkish white skin. Most of us are somewhere in between. For the longest time, why this variation exists was a real scientific mystery. That opened the door for some to invest this biological trait with moral value, and then use that to justify the suffering of others. But biological traits aren't good or bad. They're features that have evolved because they enhance an organism's odds of surviving and passing on its genes. Like other animal traits, the sepia rainbow of human skin color evolved through natural selection. Now, thanks to advances in anthropology and genetics, exactly how and why it did is no longer a mystery. Biological anthropologists like myself spend our lives studying how humans evolved and why we differ from one another physically. Our skin provides one of the most visible markers of human variability. It's something that sets us apart from our closest animal relatives. Under their dark fur, chimpanzees have pale skin. And millions of years ago, that was probably also the case for the primates that were our common ancestors. So where did humanity's range of skin colors come from? From physics, we know that the color of any object comes from the wavelengths of light that it reflects back to an observer's eye. We see leaves as green because they reflect back the wavelengths our eyes see as green. Absorbing the wavelengths we see as other colors like blue or red. In humans, different wavelengths of light are reflected or absorbed by a pigment in the top layer of our skin. That pigment's called melanin. It sits inside what look like tiny grains, the melanosomes, that are produced by cells called melanocytes. Our individual genetic inheritance determines the type of melanin inside our melanosomes. The reddish-yellow pheomelanin is more abundant in lightly pigmented people. More darkly pigmented people have more of the brown-black eumelanin. And the more eumelanin, the darker the skin. Melanin also colors human and animal hair and the feathers of many birds. Interestingly, the wavelengths of light that melanin reflects are far less important biologically than the ones it actually absorbs. And of the ones it absorbs, the ones that are the most important are those that we can't even see. Much of the light given off by the sun is invisible to our eyes. Some of that is what's called ultraviolet radiation, which is highly energetic. So much so, it can actually penetrate living cells. When it does, it can wreak havoc within them. It can even cause mutations in skin cell DNA. What stands between us and that threat is the melanin in our skin.
Melanin is kind of like the sensor and kind of like a guardian molecule, and its main job is protection.
For instance, it protects skin cell DNA by forming what are called supranuclear caps, and absorbing UV.
They're like little parasols around the nucleus, and UV cannot penetrate these to go and attack the DNA.
That's just one of the things molecular biologist Zalfa Abdelmalik finds remarkable about melanin. Another is the broad range of benefits it provides a diverse collection of species.
We know that melanin in our vertebrates is important for regulating body temperature. It can also give animals camouflage and allows them to recognize other members of the species to propagate the species.
In humans, one of melanin's functions is clearly to protect cells from UV damage. As we evolved, we lost hair and increased melanin production in our skin. So, is there a connection between the intensity of UV radiation and skin color?
Hi, Tess.
I first became fascinated with UV and skin color in the 1990s. But as I searched for information about the global distribution of solar UV, I discovered the available data was in fact quite spotty. I began casting a wider net, and almost by accident found exactly the raw data needed to fix that. It hadn't been collected by anyone interested in my questions, but rather by NASA.
Ignition and liftoff.
In the 1980s, concern about the health risk posed by the depletion of UV-blocking atmospheric ozone led NASA to take millions of UV measurements from space. I asked NASA to send me the data, and then asked my geographer husband, George Chaplin, to try to visualize it. It turned out to be a bigger request than I'd realized, but he found a way to turn all those data points into a map that showed for the very first time exactly how UV exposure varies throughout the world.
All right. So real quick, I need to go back and I need y'all to hit this again, because there's many people that were arguing about this whole thing about the skin map or understanding skin complexion throughout the world, from the equator being the central point to going as far north or as far south as possible. And you see these different skin variations. The closer to the equator that you are, and then the further away from the equator that you are. So here is the methodology that is provided to answer the question that many people have failed to realize.
In the 1980s, concern about the health risk posed by the depletion of UV-blocking atmospheric ozone led NASA to take millions of UV measurements from space. I asked NASA to send me the data, and then asked my geographer husband, George Chaplin, to try to visualize it. It turned out to be a bigger request than I'd realized, but he found a way to turn all those data points into a map that showed for the very first time exactly how UV exposure varies throughout the world.
So that's just the map.
Most striking was the clear gradient between the equator and the poles, which was interrupted only in places where altitude increased UV exposure.
This is actually in the Tibetan Plateau.
And persistent cloud cover decreased it.
Congo Basin, so it's full of humidity and moisture, which is blocking the UV.
Solar energy is a fundamental attribute of any environment, and it's a well-established fact that organisms living at different latitudes adapt in some way to their local solar conditions. To see how closely human skin color correlates with UV exposure, I collected skin pigment measurements made by anthropologists studying indigenous peoples. For many years, anthropologists have faced the challenge of how to accurately measure skin color. We now use this little device called a reflectometer. Basically, It sends out light of specific colors, and then it measures the amount of light that is reflected back. This tells us what color Tess's skin is, and we can then compare this to people all over the world. George then created a second map using measured skin colors and environmental data. It showed UV intensity does indeed predict skin color. Wherever UV is strong, skin is dark, like it is near the equator or at high altitude. At the poles, the skin of indigenous people is almost always lighter.
Ladies and gentlemen, I clicked on and off for a reason to show you the maps. So there's two maps that were significant. There was the one that was created by the data that was received from NASA, which is who our husband worked for. When we tell the story, we say all of this. In a summarized version of this, it has this data in there, but we have to know the facts. So when you say, how did we arrive to the conclusion that this was substantiated evidence that is being provided, that substantiated evidence being the skin map, ladies and gentlemen, this data was captured and provided from images that was unbeknownst to us, that she didn't even have the ability to do. She had to reach out to her husband, which reached out to somebody, and they collected this data from images that was already being captured outside of us through satellite imaging, etc. I'm just trying to help y'all, man. Because we're going to come back to the crayon box in just a second.
That suggests that variation in human skin melanin production arose as different populations adapted biologically to different solar conditions around the world. As we've noted, our early ancestors probably had full body hair covering pale skin, just like other primates. So when did the darker shades of human skin begin to evolve? DNA sequencing has made it possible to find evidence that can help answer that question. Rick Kittles is a geneticist who's skilled at deciphering such clues.
Whenever a species undergoes some form of selection, some form of natural selection, evidence of that selection is found in the genome. And so as geneticists, we get really excited when we explore the genome for these signatures. One way in which that's done is by sampling worldwide populations and looking throughout the genome at variation and comparing across populations. And it's a very exciting process. I feel like a detective when I go through that process.
One of the many genes that genetic detectives have linked to human pigmentation is called MC1R. Sampling from around the world indicates there's a fair amount of variation in the DNA sequence of that gene, but not from every corner of the globe.
When we look at MC1R within African populations, we don't see a lot of diversity. And the particular allele that they have in those African populations is the one that codes for darker skin. MC1R codes for a protein which is involved in the switch from the production of pheomelanin to eumelanin. And we know pheomelanin is the reddish yellow pigment, and then the eumelanin is the brown black pigment.
The absence of MC1R diversity in African populations indicates that, in that part of the world, there is strong negative selection against any alleles that would alter dark skin. And how long has this allele been fixed in African populations? Other genetic studies have calculated that it has been as much as 1.2 million years.
Real quick, it is not a coincidence that this expert reached out to another expert and collected data based on where they collected data from her husband and took that data and that knowledge and information to have a conversation with Rick Kittles in understanding genetics, and understood that she needed to go somebody who had knowledge of Africa and the diversity in Africa as it pertains to certain genes. That's why I put in the chat MC1R. That is uniquely relevant in any discussion with an Abo who think they've been here before the Paleo Indians, the Native Americans, or these Mexican people that's running around here that are offsprings of through that evolutionary process of the first peoples. MC1R. I'm gonna it's only 7 more minutes of the video left, and I know y'all want to kind of see it, but I just ain't trying to get the little flag because it is another YouTube video, so that's why I'm going in and out. However, ladies and gentlemen, I did leave a link directly to this video in the description of the video, because you are going to want to hear this not only once, but a few times, especially those of you who are having these conversations or those of you who just like to openly study. But we're going to go deeper than that because it's deeper than rap.
Since our species evolved in equatorial Africa, it's reasonable to conclude that by that time, all humans were dark-skinned.
The fossil record supports what we've gleaned from genetic evidence. But here's where we confront what was, for me, the heart of the mystery.
The evolution of dark skin in humans suggests that under strong UV light, that trait provided a survival advantage. So what exactly was that advantage? It's certainly true, UV damage to skin cell DNA can lead to cancer, and skin cancer can be fatal. For a long time, that seemed the likeliest explanation. Except, skin cancer generally develops after a person's peak reproductive years. For that reason, though it might cut your life short, it's unlikely to affect your ability to pass on your genes. As I was struggling to conceive of an alternative explanation, I happened to attend a lecture on severe birth defects. That talk was about a research project that had found evidence that certain birth defects are far more common among pregnant women with diets deficient in a B vitamin called folate. Only weeks before, I'd come across a paper that described how strong sunlight breaks down folate circulating in skin blood vessels. Here was a direct link between UV radiation, skin color, and reproductive success. It was a small eureka moment for me. In the years since, we've learned that folate is not only essential for normal embryonic development, it's even needed for healthy sperm production in males.
Folate is biological gold. It is an essential nutrient, and it needs to be protected from UV radiation as it circulates in the blood vessels in the skin. That is what melanin does. I felt I was halfway home on my quest to understand human skin color variation. But a big question remained. Why aren't we all dark-skinned?
It turns out there's another side to our relationship with UV light. UV light is not all bad. In fact, the small portion of it known as UVB is critical for the synthesis in our bodies of vitamin D, a process that starts in the skin. Without vitamin D, humans cannot absorb calcium from our diet to build our bones and for a healthy immune system. Back when all our ancestors lived close to the equator, there was no problem getting enough UVB through dark skin to make the vitamin D needed. But then some populations started moving north, where the UV striking Earth's surface is much weaker. In northern latitudes, dark skin makes it hard to produce the vitamin D that human bodies really need.
One more time. In what?
Northern latitudes, dark skin makes it hard to produce the vitamin D that human bodies really need.
One more
The Earth's surface is much weaker. In northern latitudes, dark skin makes it hard to produce the vitamin D that human bodies really need. The consequences of vitamin D deficiency.
So, real quick, because I want to make this point very clear. Listen to her say this one more time. This is where the abo dies. You said you was here first, and we know for a fact that we had an ice sheet that was a mile high that stretched from the Pacific, and I'm just being just right there, as far east past Illinois, Chicago somewhere. Uninhabitable. But guess what though? Before they even entered in or journeyed into the Americas, what?
In northern latitudes, dark skin makes it hard to produce the vitamin D that human bodies really need.
So the people that entered in the Americas were in the northern areas over time. So how did your black behind this? How did you melanated indigenous aboriginal North Americans get into the Americas being black? You didn't say you was light-skinned or you know what I'm saying? You said black. Because when Vino, more specifically AP and A1 and even Dane and Top Cats, all you abos, when y'all talk about how y'all been here, this, that, and the third, y'all use misrepresentations of certain historic documents to say, see, they said black. They said they look like black, that they look like the Africans, yada, yada, yada. You say all this looking like shit, but here we go. Talking about, one more time, doctor. One more time. Help me out.
Northern latitudes, dark skin makes it hard to produce the vitamin D that human bodies really need.
So, y'all would have had to be lighter. You would have been lighter. Because in those northern altitudes in which these people were in climatically, because the Americas was uninhabitable at the time, you would have been lighter due to the lack of vitamin D. But you want to keep arguing and keep arguing and keep arguing. So now we're going to deal with this science. Let's continue.
The consequences of vitamin D deficiency include rickets, a bone development disease that can cripple the young.
Let me show you what rickets look like. You heard what she just said. Let me show you what rickets look like. That's a child with rickets, ladies and gentlemen. One more time, doctor. One more time, doctor.
Vitamin D deficiency include rickets, a bone development disease that can cripple the young. In higher latitudes with less UV, the selective pressure on MC1R that produced dark skin in our ancient ancestors began to abate.
When we look at the early movement out of...
Hold on, Rick. Hold on. So when I told y'all earlier and put it in the chat, MC1R was significant into this entire discussion. I was not playing with y'all. MC1R. When them people left up out of Africa and went into other environments, the MC1R was a key factor in the lightening of that skin complexion. It goes back to the vital points. One more time, doctor, because I interrupted you.
In higher latitudes with less UV, the selective pressure on MC1R that produced dark skin in our ancient ancestors began to abate.
When we look at the early movement out of Africa, when that constraint was relaxed, we then see a plethora of variation.
In European and Asian populations, geneticists have discovered greater variation in the MC1R gene, but less variation in several other genes, ones associated with lighter skin types.
Different environments led to other genes being selected for and being important and for those populations in terms of skin color.
Selection for light skin gene variants occurred multiple times in different groups around the world, some of it in just the last 10,000 years. Support for the idea that the UV vitamin D connection helped drive the evolution of paler skin comes from the fact that indigenous peoples with diets rich in this essential vitamin have dark pigmentation. The tension between these two aspects of our biological inheritance, on the one hand, the need to protect ourselves from most ultraviolet radiation, and on the other, the need to use some ultraviolet radiation for our own benefit. These forces drove the evolution of the wonderful variation in human skin color that we see around us today. It's the legacy of an evolutionary balancing act necessitated by the different environmental conditions people have faced around the globe. The thing is, where once human migrations took many generations, we now move about the planet at the speed of sound. That means increasing numbers of us have pigmentation that's not a good match with where we live.
People with fair skin and red hair, your phenotype is telling you you have a high risk of skin cancer if you're out in the sun. If you're a dark-skinned individual living, for example, in Scandinavia or in Minnesota, you're not going to have optimal exposure to UV for optimal vitamin D synthesis, and you need to take supplements.
We now know that we need to make cultural adaptations like these to stay healthy, but that's not all we've learned.
With the knowledge we now have about evolution, we also know that skin color is a flexible trait that has changed through time as various groups of people moved to sunny or less sunny parts of the world. And we know that skin color is inherited independently of other traits and is not associated with other aspects of a person's appearance or behavior. Skin color is a product of evolution and should never have been judged as something good or bad. We are a very clever and adaptable species, and we are one under the sun.
So, there's a lot to be said by that. Now, I'm going to take you to some as I continue to build. I'm not playing no games with you. I'm pulling all the punches. All the punches. All of the punches, ladies and gentlemen. A person's skin color is determined primarily by the proportions of eumelanin and phenomelanin, the overall amount of melanin produced, and the number and size of melanosomes and how they are distributed. People with naturally darkly pigmented skin have melanosomes that are large and filled with eumelanin. Those with natural paler skins have smaller and fewer melanosomes that contain varying amounts of kinds of eumelanin and the lighter colored pheomelanin. Yeah. It just goes over and over and over. So again, when I told y'all earlier about this MC1R gene, I was not playing no games. You need to understand. Don't worry. This is in the description of the video. So, genetics of melanin production. Constitutive of pigmentation of the pigmentation we are born with is a paleogenic trait, and many of the genes involved have been identified. These gene codes for the enzymes that affect melanin synthesis and for the packaging, distribution, and degradation of melanosomes, mutation Mutations in some of these genes cause an absence of melanin, as seen in human oculocognitive albinoism and related disorders. For example, I know I said the word wrong. For example, one form of albinism is caused by mutations that inactivate the tyrosine gene. The HHMI film mentions the importance, which is the film we just watched, the importance of the MC1R gene. What the hell are you talking about? I'm glad that you asked. This gene codes for the protein that sits in the melanocyte's membrane. It is activated by a variety of stimuli, such as by the melanocyte stimulating hormone, MSH, and is responsible for determining whether the eumelanin or the pheomelanin is produced. People of African descent. Run that back one more time, ladies and gentlemen. Let me take this off the screen, my bad. People of African descent. My bad, y'all. Why y'all ain't say nothing? People of African descent have a version of MC1R gene that is associated with eumelanin production. As mentioned in the film, there is very little variation of the MC1R gene in African populations compared to populations indigenous to Europe and Asia. This lack of diversity as a genetic locus is evidence of selection, suggesting that eumelanin production provides an advantage to people living in equatorial Africa. Differences in the MC1R gene are also responsible for the coat color variations in the rock pocket mouse. For resources related to the MC1R activity, they have that right here for you in case you need to get jiggy with it. Scientists have looked for evidence of selection in other parts of the genome and have identified genes involved in skin color in different populations. For example, one allele of a gene called OCA2 results in lighter skin colors and is almost exclusively found in East and Southeast Asian populations. On the other hand, alleles of two genes called the SLC24A5 and the SLC45A2 are also associated with lighter skin colors and much more frequent in Europeans than in other populations. These and other data suggest that lighter skin evolved more than once by different mechanisms. Interestingly, the SL24A5 and the SLC45A2 genes were first discovered in zebrafish and are responsible for the differences in striped colors. I told y'all about that back in 2015, 2016 when he kept on showing y'all the zebrafish, but y'all weren't paying attention. An important concept to make sure people understood the genetic evidence indicates that similar skin colors and tanning ability evolved independently as different human groups dispersed into different places with similar UV descriptions. So there's some talking points by Jablonski regarding things, but she hones in on the MC1R allele in the people of Equatorial Africa, as it was the basis for helping draw that line and then move forward. Because as people left up out of Africa, that was the gene, or the allele, I should say, right? That had all the variations that had to transpire with mutations and adaptation. Excuse me. So I want to keep going. I'm going to get back to my book. I'm going to get back to it. So here we go. Human skin color. Just going to touch on a couple of things right here in this article. The DNA of all people around the world contains a record of how living populations are related to one another and far back from those genetic relationships go. Understanding the spread of modern human population relies on the identification of genetic markers, which are rare mutations to DNA that are passed on through generations. Different populations carry distinct markers. Once markers have been identified, they can be traced back in time to their origin. The most recent common ancestor of everyone who carries the marker following these markers through the generations reveals a genetic tree of many diverse branches, each of which may be followed back to where they all join the common African root. The mitochondria inside each cell are the power stations of the body. They generate energy necessary for cellular organisms to live and function. Mitochondria have their own DNA, abbreviated mtDNA. Distinct from the DNA inside the nucleus of each cell, mtDNA is the female equivalent of a surname. It passed down from mother to offspring in every generation. And the more female offspring to a mother and her female descendants produce, the more common her mtDNA types have changed over the millennia. A natural mutation modifying the mtDNA in the reproductive cells of one woman will from then on characterize her descendants. These two fundamentals, inheritance along the mother line of occasional mutation, allow geneticists to reconstruct ancient genetic prehistory from the variations in mtDNA types that occur today around the world. Population genetics often use haplogroups, which are branches on the tree of early human migrations on genetic evolution. They are defined by genetic mutations or markers found in molecular testings of chromosomes in mtDNA. These markers link the members of a haplogroup back to the marker's first appearance in the group's most recent common ancestor. Haplogroups often have geographic relation. A synthesis of mtDNA studies conclude that an early exodus out of Africa, evidenced by the remains of Skull and Khazar by 135 to 100,000 years ago, has not let any descendants in today's Eurasian mtDNA pool. By contrast, the successful exodus of women carrying the M and the N mtDNA ancestral to all non-African mtDNA today at around 60,000 years ago may coincide with the unprecedented low sea levels at the time, probably opening at the route across the Red Sea to Yemen. Another study of a subset of human mtDNA sequence yielded similar results, finding that most recent common ancestors of all Eurasians, American, Australian, Papua New Guinean, and African lineages dates to between 73 to 57,000 years ago, while the average age of coverages or coalescence time of the three basic non-African founding haplogroups M, N, and R is 45,000 years ago. This information enables scientists to develop intriguing hypotheses about when dispersals took place to different regions of the world. These hypotheses can be tested with further studies of genetic fossils, which brings us to the point of modern human diversity in skin color. Why do people from different parts of the world have different colored skin? Why do people from the tropics generally have darker skin color than those who live in colder climates? Variations in human skin color are adaptive traits that correlate closely with geography and the sun's ultraviolet radiation. As early humans moved into hot, open environments in search of food, water, and one big challenge was keeping cool. The adaptation that was favored involved an increase in the number of sweat glands on the skin while at the same time reducing the amount of body hair. With less hair, perspiration could evaporate more easily and cool the body more efficiently. But this less hairy skin was a problem because it was exposed to a very strong sun, especially in the lands near the equator. Since strong sun exposure damages the body, the solution was to evolve skin that was permanently darker so as to protect against sun's more damaging rays. Melanin, the skin's brown pigment, is a natural sunscreen that protects tropical peoples from many harmful effects of ultraviolet or UV rays. UV rays can, for example, strip away folic acid, a nutrient essential in the development of healthy fetuses. Yet when a certain amount of UV rays penetrates the skin, it helps the human body use vitamin D to absorb the calcium necessary for strong bones. This delicate balancing act explains why the peoples that migrated to colder geographic zones with less sunlight developed lighter skin color. As people moved to areas farther from the equator with lower UV levels, Natural selection favored lighter skin, which allowed UV rays to penetrate and produce essential vitamin D. The darker skin of peoples who lived closer to the equator was important in preventing foliate deficiency. Measures of skin reflectance, a way to quantify skin color by measuring the amount of light it reflects, in people around the world support this idea. While UV rays can cause skin cancer, because skin cancer usually affects people after they have children, it likely had little effect on the evolution of skin color because evolution favors changes that improve reproductive success. There's also a third factor which affects skin color. Coastal peoples who eat diets rich in seafood enjoy this alternate source of vitamin D. That means that some Arctic peoples, such as native peoples of Alaska and Canada, can afford to remain dark-skinned even in low UV areas. In the summer, they get high levels of UV rays reflected from the surface of snow and ice, and their dark skin protects them from this reflective light. People today look remarkably diverse on the outside, but how much of that diversity is genetically encoded? I ain't even gonna go that far. I want to stay right where I just left. Right where I just left. So back in 2017, this article was shared with a bunch of people about the gene variants reveal the evolution of human skin color. So on the screen, before we even get into this article, are both of these gentlemen that you see on the screen, these two gentlemen, according to skin color, are both these people the same people? Looking at these two people, are they the same people? What would make them uniquely different or separate from one another? Their skin is a variation of black. One's more darker than, and one's more lighter brown. Open the crayon box. Are these two people uniquely the same? Let me ask the Abo question. Did Columbus and them see the dude on the right? Or did Columbus and them see the dude on the left or someone similar to that on the left? Help me out. Crayon box makers, help me out. Who did Columbus see? Most people associate Africans with dark skin, but different groups of people in Africa have almost every skin color on the planet, from the deepest dark in the Dinka of South Sudan to beige in the sand of South Africa. Now, researchers have discovered a handful of new gene variants responsible for this palette of tones. The study published online this week in Science traces the evolution of these genes and how they travel around the world. While the dark skin of the Pacific Islanders can be traced back to Africa, gene variants from Eurasia also seem to have made their way back to Africa. And surprisingly, some of the mutations responsible for lighter skin in Europeans turn out to have an ancient African origin. This is really a landmark study of skin color diversity, geneticist Greg Barsh of the Hudson Alpha Institute of Biotechnology in Huntsville, Alabama said. Researchers agree that our early Australopithecine ancestors in Africa probably had light skin beneath their pelts. If you shave the chimpanzee, its skin is light, says evolutionary geneticist Sarah Titchoff, the lead author of the new study. If you have body hair, you don't need dark skin to protect you from ultraviolet radiation. Until recently, Researchers assume that after human ancestors shed most of their body hair, sometime before 2 million years ago, they quickly evolved dark skin for protection from skin cancer and harmful effects of UV radiation. Then when humans migrated out of Africa and headed to the far north, they evolved lighter skin as an adaptation to limited sunlight. You just heard me go over the SL24A5. But when this article was written, I'm going to show you where the science has grown since this article was written. Previous research on skin color genes fit that picture. For example, depigmentation gene called the SLC24A5 linked pale skins swept through Europe populations in the past 6,000 years. How old is the Bible? The Bible saying people are? The Bible saying people are 6,000 years old. Coincidentally, this skin gene type would have said the same thing. However, because of better science, that date has been moved as far back as up to 30,000 years or something like that. They didn't trace the gene. But anyway, Tishkoff's team found that the story of skin color evolution isn't so black and white. Her team, including African researchers, used a light meter to measure skin reflectance in 2,092 people in Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Botswana. They found the darkest skin in the Nilo-Saharan pastoralist populations in Eastern Africa, such as the Mercy and Suma, and the lightest skin in San and South Africa, as well as many shades in between, as in the Akar people of Ethiopia. At the same time, they collected blood samples for genetic studies. They sequenced more than 4 million single nucleotide polymorphisms, places where a single letter of the genetic code varies across the genomes of 1,570 of these Africans. They found 4 key areas of the genome where specific SNPs correlate with skin color. The first surprise was the SLC24A5. which swept Europe and also a common East African found in many half of the members of some Ethiopian groups. This variant arose 30,000 years ago. You see what it? You see now you with it. This variant arose 30,000 years ago and was probably brought to Eastern Africa by people migrating the Middle East. But though many East Africans have this gene, they don't have white skin. Probably because it is just one of several genes that shaped their skin color. The team also found variants of 2 neighboring genes, the HERC2 and the OCA2. Hold on one second, y'all. Let me see something. I think I just got a notification from Not a C. Yep. And we gonna bleed right on into Not a Coincidence show. The team also found the variants of 2 neighboring genes, the HERC2 and the OCA2, which are associated with light skin, eyes, and hair in Europeans, but arose in Africa. These variants are ancient and common in the light-skinned people of the sand. The team proposes that the variant arose in Africa as early as 1 million years ago and spread later to Europeans and Asians. Many of the gene variants that cause light skin in Europe have origins in Africa. So the most dramatic discovery concerned a gene known as the MFSD12. 2 mutations that decrease expression of the gene were found in high frequencies in people with the darkest skin. These variants arose about 500,000 years ago, suggesting that human ancestors before that time may have had moderately dark skin, rather than the deep blue hue created today by these mutations. So when I go back to Jablonski's work, right, in our book, right, I don't think I made the book available to y'all, and I ain't apologizing for not making it available. But in this book, when she continues to elaborate in this book about our skin tone, this puts the Aboriginal, the indigenous black man that says he's a autochthonous to the Americas and all that bull junk we've been arguing with these fools on, it puts them in total compromise with the evidence completely. So what I am proposing to do is to continue this conversation, because in the later chapters in this work, which is the book's only 210 pages, but in the later chapters of this work, she goes deeper than deep, and it answers the questions. You're going to hear a lot about Africa out of this book, and we're going to get all the way into it. The opening of this about skin tone is immaculate. That is why I said you can't measure who you are by someone's skin tone. That ain't it. That's not the measuring stick. And we also know that the first peoples to populate the Americas wasn't no damn black people. They wasn't dark-skinned people like that. Because them first peoples wasn't even by the equator at the time. And we know this because of how stuff goes. So I'm going to stop right there. And I'm gonna expound on this. The video is hour and 50 minutes. This is good digestible information that you can go back and play and keep up with everything. What up, Big Ant? Hell yeah, you know we got checkmate. I'm not playing with nobody. Bro, I'm for real. I ain't playing with nobody. So I'm gonna come back to this and we're gonna further that discussion. And then once we understand our skin and the purpose of this and the shade, the many different variations that we have amongst us, then we can take a step further into a whole nother conversation. Yes, sir. Absolutely. So I don't know how y'all feel, but I feel like y'all should have learned something today. Even those of you who joined late. When you replay this, you're going to fully understand what's going on. Now, what I just dropped was the redirect. You heard me? What I just dropped was the redirect. Because we finna get into we finna go hunt. And I'm finna drink some apple juice. I ain't had nothing to eat all day. I just been juicing. The apple juice. And we finna go see what Not a Coincidence is on. Because we on that type of time. So y'all make sure y'all like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. We finna go hunting. And I'm finna get into all the shiesty-ish. For real. Hold on real quick. I got one more thing for y'all. One more little quick little thing. So the other day, well, last week when I did the video about white slaves and all of that, an Aboriginal shared it to his community page. And because of sharing it to his community page, there was a comment on there. There was a comment on there by what I've come to learn would be Queef Holiday's significant other. Biasly, she stated that we don't watch Sean P. Why would you share this? That's what she said. We don't watch Sean P. Why would you share this? So now, you know what it is. It's time to apply that pressure. I don't agree with Sutek because I don't understand his definition. I don't agree with Sutek. Once we get past skin color, we can get into who black and who ain't black. That social construct will be destroyed scientifically because that doesn't determine one's blackness in America. No, I don't. I don't agree with you. If I agree with you, then I ain't black. And your ass ain't black either. Because you got European ancestry. So your ass can't be black. So is blackness an experience? Is it related or interrelated with culture? No, I'm talking science. Don't put me in we. Don't put me in we. Don't put me in we. I'm using science. I ain't doing a social conversation. I ain't making up shit. I'm going all evidence. All evidence. What the hell is biracial? We finna go over here and hunt the elbows. We gonna get on that topic once we get past the skin color. Sute acting like an elbow. He acting like Vino over who is and who ain't X, Y, and Z. You got to give me a better argument of that. Even if you're making a social argument, it's got to be a better argument of just negating one's blackness. And on that note, let's go over here and holler at Not a Coincidence.
How the fuck y'all find an African in my fucking family, but y'all ain't find
his
y'all?
own genealogy.
Shut the fuck up. That don't make sense, for one. Listen, y'all don't know what y'all
I
did.
don't feel like you standing on business.
Y'all lied on me, because y'all won't even know if that's me. And if y'all can trace that shit back to it's me, it's only 2 people in YouTube that got my information.
Yeah, he died by his own genealogy. You ain't an Indian, you ain't got a lot of me. Half of this track, best believe you lose a lot of sleep. Probably because you made it up to us honestly. You ain't a Cherokee, nope. You ain't a Chickasaw, nope. You ain't a Blackfoot, nope. Nigga, get lost. You just a fool with low comprehension. So I gotta come through with the henchmen. NAC, Sean P, Shy Son, Lucky. Don't forget Jay, got no time to play. Caught an apple slipping with his genealogy. Now he's a con and I ain't talking about a singer. I'm coming for the top apple leader. He ain't a teacher, he's a preacher. He can't keep up, so we leave him. Yeah, he died by his own genealogy. You ain't an Indian, you ain't got a lot of me. Half of the track, best believe you lose a lot of sleep. Probably because you made it up to us possibly. You ain't a Cherokee, no. You ain't a Chickasaw, no. You ain't a Blackfoot. Nigga, get lost. You just a fool with low comprehension. So I gotta come through with the henchmen. NAC, Sean P, Shy Son, Lucky. Don't forget Jay, got no time to play. Caught an apple slipping off his genealogy. Now he's a con. OTK. TKO. Now he's a con. OTK. You died. TKO. Genealogy.